Warning. Warning. This show must not be confused for anything other than political satire and public discourse pandering performance art. Any attempt to consider this show as, quote, professional journalism, or hold it accountable to, quote, professional news source standards, will be met with all caps LOLs with lots of extra Z's, and mild mockery and ridicule of the tough love, good-natured sort. All opinions, observations, endorsements, theories, speculative statements, questions, pontifications, literary world creations, story ideas, production concepts, spiritual theosophies, and business ideas expressed herein in this and all other episodes, both previously on this show and in perpetuity into future shows and episodes, are the sole intellectual property of the creator of this show and of all related, quote, Zeppo brand content. Rodrigo Magdalena de Jesus, insert fictional, magical, mystical third middle name here, Romero Herrera del Monte de la Cruz. And now, welcome to your new favorite talk radio styled podcast show. The Almost Daily Zencast presents Good Morning Trumptopia! Greetings and salutations, humans, and welcome to this robot's personal project from home. Hello and namaste, dear human listeners. Today is Friday, 11 of December, 2020. And the Trump-topian empire teeters on the verge of either sort of waffling in on itself or really truly taking root and establishing itself as, the dark orange future of the world. Imagine, if you would, for a hot second, an American empire in the not-too-distant future. A Trump-topian, dystopian tyranny. With lots of all bright red Christmas trees, so abstracted out from Christmas that no one even remembers what they're for. Solving the catch-22 dilemma of classical Christmas trees. Something I usually wait and save until a little closer to the holy day of Jesus' birth. But I hate to be the one to break it to you, dear friends and listeners. If you are a passionate believer in the Bible, and I don't judge, right? Like, I have had my love affair with that book. And I, have believed it with a hard-on. And I mean that with all respect, right? Like, I had a spiritual erection for it. And I hope that doesn't, just piss people off. I don't mean that disrespectfully. For as much as there is to be outraged, and for as much as deserves a little bit of tough love ridicule, there's a lot in the Bible that's kind of sexy, yo. In a sort of, they lived in loincloths and didn't have running water kind of way. They had running water. But anyways, I digress. Imagine an empire based on all that which we would, make fun of in a not Robert. Why did I start with Robert? Way to ruin that moment. Way to sidetrack my own flow, too. In a Stephen Colbert kind of way. Imagine, have you ever seen Brazil? Because I'm drawing a lot of inspiration from, the architecture in Brazil. Imagine a Trump-topian empire in the heart, nestled in the bosom, in the very middle of Middle America, of what was once, the vast, stretching mid-waste of the good old US of A. An empire within which there is a giant gun preserve park, which I fancifully have entitled Guntopia within the literary world of my imaginary future. In which, you can imagine what Guntopia is like. Put a pin in that. Don't steal it from me. Oh, sorry. I did not mean to, harshly tap the recording device with my pen as I waggled my public speaking hand at the recording device. I apologize if anybody's ears were, blown out by that. That sucks. Hopefully I will get around to micromanaging all that editing I need to do. Good God. Welcome to the show, folks. We are living in the backstory of my own comic book dystopian future, and that's the cosplay that I cosplay when I do this show. By the way, for those of you wondering, if you're whatever device and or platform you're listening to this show is proudly recorded on the Sprecher app. using an iPad 6th gen. I like to call it the middle brother between the mini and the extra large. And you can read all about this podcasting platform at Sprecher.com. And if you want to come on down to my downtown profile page for the podcast show of podcast show projects, it's easily found at www.sprecher.com/show/Zencast, one word. For those of you who are unsure of the spelling, that's Zencast. Z and or Z, depending on which preference and which dimension you're from, is my favorite letter of the alphabet. Gee, I wonder why. The show is also available on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, iHeartRadio, Google Play Music, TuneIn, CastBox, Podcast Republic, Deezer, Podcast Addict, and many other fine podcast catchers. But if you want to be a hardcore fan, if you want to be featured on the show, you want your words read back to you in your own ear hole, come on down to Sprecher. I don't want to flirt too dangerously with violating the end user license agreement of my own podcast recording, hosting, publication, distribution service, but I'm not allowed. There's certain things I'm not allowed to tell you, dear audience, to do. Like, I'm not allowed to hold a raffle. I think I'm not allowed to mention this thing I'm doing on Facebook. I have to double check about that because I've been wanting to bring it up, but it might technically be a violation of the EULA. And I know that, EULAs, most people just click right on through that without really reading it. But the irony is, I literally, and this is truly mostly for my own entertainment, so I'm a bit astonished when I see that it gets downloaded. But I sat in this show on the air and read not just one EULA, but all the appropriately related EULAs that I thought deserved the respect of being acknowledged on my show. I don't think that's against the EULA. Although I do wake up at night in terrible, 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 sweaty armpit sweats of oh my God, what if that show is the one show that's egregiously in violation of the EULA? Oh God, I'm feeling extra theater today. I apologize. So it cracks me up when I think that, oh God, what if that? And it's I don't know. It's a mini series. It's a special sidebar, absurdist episode series for me. But I literally just comment on and read through my EULA, which is obnoxiously long and boring. And no one in their right mind should really want to listen to it unless they're a huge, hardcore, really committed fan and they just want to help this poor, starving artist out. Because I'm on the verge of, I don't want to get melodramatic, but obviously 2020 has been a little bit of a biatch in all directions, at everybody in all possible ways imaginable. And while I am filled with deep, deep, deep gratitude that I am not, in the gutter, like a ragamuffin street urchin in the Dickensian sense, or in any other kind of condition that could be worse than where I'm at. And I pray and I empathize and I feel deep, deep pain for the untold millions of people who are either on the verge of that or already tumbling over that cliff as our governments either nefariously attempt to make all the conspiracy theorists, wet dreams come as close to coming true as plausible as you can imagine in real life, for them to feel, like they win, and then also sort of like achieve other nefarious goals that are the obvious hidden agenda that all conspiracy theory is a distraction from. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. I don't mean to piss off all the conspiracy theorists flocking to my show. You're welcome here too, friends, but all right, if there's one thing that offends everybody about my body of work here, and I've been doing this for 4 years, and there's about 11 and a half of you, like somewhere between 11 and or 20 people, maybe it's a influx of many that come and go, and it's not one body of consistent enthusiasts. But we're at that level of folks who seem to be, in what I've been able to look at in the analytics, having had access to them this year. I've been doing the show for 4 years, but I've only had access to like in-depth analytics for various boring reasons involving subscription levels this 1 year, 2020. It's been fascinating. Maybe the year prior to. So 2 years at most out of the 4 years. So half the time. I digress. What am I talking about? I've already told you where the show is available. If you love hashtags, these are the show's hashtags, because I want to start doing that on the regular during the opening of the show. Hashtag peace is possible. Hashtag we are healing. Pause for commentary. I have been thinking about turning that hashtag, editing that one a little bit to we are the healing. I don't know. What do you guys think? Which one makes the better hashtag? Which one do you think is going to go viral better? We are healing, which can be both meanings, like we are healing like personal self-condition status, like my body is healing, my emotions are healing, my mind is healing, and also we are like proper noun, healing. Like we are team heal. But you put the in, and it gets really explicit, and it gets a little bit hoity-toity, like I am the and or the incorrigible Mr. Zeppo, depending on your preferred pronunciation. I don't know. I just thought I'd throw that out there. We are healing. Hashtag enlightenment. Hashtag consciousness. Hashtag, and people are going to laugh at this. I'm going to get ridiculed for this, I'm sure. Love is always the answer. And that's a hard pill to swallow, folks, because even I know that sometimes you just don't have the energy and or the motivation and or the imagination and or the amplitude of energy to pump out endless love. But it's always the answer. Meditation, and this one I spent years on, you guys. There was iterations and drafts and revisions, and I don't know. I don't know if it's done or not yet, but it's, I think, truly my own authentic original hashtag that no one's ever used before, and I would love for it to go viral. Meditation is the ultimate revolution. Followed by, and I don't think this is new, someone else had this long before me, hashtag look within, and hashtag the revolution is in your mind. I wanted to put the revolution is before your mind, but I don't think that makes sense until you've gotten a little bit more acquainted with the way I talk about mind. But welcome to the show, folks. I am your favorite artificial life form sent to you from an alternate universe in a literary world of books, comic books, movies, video games that have not arrived yet, so you don't realize it. And we are here to talk about the world's events in a show called Good Morning Trumptopia. And here, for those of you who've never heard it, is the old school opening intros that kind of, sets the tone a little bit more specifically. Daily Zencast. Hosted by the incorrigible Mr. Zappa. Let's talk Trump. The burning question on my mind, dear friends and internet fam and fellow participants in the human experiment otherwise known as Trumptopia, aka formerly known as the United States of America. Will Trump try to pull a double pope scenario? You know what the double pope scenario is? I made up that label. I don't know if the Roman Catholic Church has an official name for it. They might. I'm a bit of a Catholic Church nerd. And that's a whole long story about how I used to want to be the Pope. Like, I wanted to grow up, like, as a kid, before puberty, as a child, which is why I don't talk about it, because it's a little weird. It's a little weird, and especially nowadays, it comes with way too much baggage, you know, the Catholic Church being a pretty nefarious institution riddled with evil men who do horrible things. But many are still attached, and many still believe that it's just a few bad apples, and many still want the church to survive, although it really just deserves to be dismantled and redistributed amongst the poor the way Jesus wanted to do. But I digress. That's controversial content. And we're talking about Trump. The double pope scenario. There has been at least once, in my faulty memory and or multiple dimensional memory in which, you know, different timelines do different things slightly differently, twice or sometimes 3 times the double pope. That was a really bad music reference to 3 Times a Lady, and I apologize for it. Maybe I don't apologize for it. But there have been clashes over who is the most holy man in the cult. Who runs the cult? Right? No offense to everybody who loves the Catholic Church, but it is a cult. Everything's a cult. Humans are cult makers. And we sort of overuse the word in the wrong way to mean terrible, evil, bad people that should be arrested and or killed. And that's not, like, we do that with everything. If you're, insert all your favorite derogatory terms here, you're terrible, evil, bad humans that should be arrested and or killed. And that's what everyone does with everything. Like, literally right now, Republicans feel that way about Democrats, and Democrats feel that way about Republicans. And that's what the system of oppression wants. So that's already happening. That's on and not being, that's not a question of, oh my God, what horrible conspiracy theory might they be trying to do? And I've been pointing that out to you, delightful talking monkeys, since the buffoon Ronald Reagan was in office. No offense, but he was a bit of a buffoon. I mean, he was a cowboy that talked to a chimpanzee on a TV show while selling you cigarettes. I mean, that's an over satirical satirist's cartoonification of Ronald Reagan. And let's pause. He did some amazing things that even I was sort of inspired and got misty-eyed about when I, witnessed them and when I, saw reporting about them contemporaneously and in the, preceding interim future / past, now that it is the past. Now, in the intervening time, every political actor, let's use the industry term, right? Because we have national and international actors on the world stage. And that's not even NWO conspiracy talk. That's how they talk about themselves. The actual politicians, etc. And those who operate on the world stage. In Trumptopia, they all have way too many things in common. And so when we approached Trump, when Trump announced, I wanted to give him room for sure. But we've come full circle and here we are. And between now and January 20th, which, as if you listen to recent episodes, you'll know I think that anybody who is officially got a vested interest in the camp that collectively, the coalition that might be called Trump opposition, you shouldn't sit back and relax just yet. You really should, if you're spiritual, keep working that manifestation mojo. Right? Because the way political actors play the game, it's all about harnessing power. Now, that's not news breaking news, right? That's how everyone commonly talks about it. But there's a sort of mundane secular idea of power, which is about having the personal authority and or charisma and or leverage and or what's another thing that's still sort of mundane? Threat of violence, authority. If we can distinguish that as a singular form of authority, different from other forms of authority. And you can utilize, and we can talk about it, and we can analyze all of it on a secular level. But there's also the sort of spiritual realm. And not to get sucked into any of the spiritual community conspiracy theory content, because there's plenty, because conspiracy theory is reaching out into all communities mysteriously as system of oppression, hijacking, indoctrination, delivery devices tend to do. Nerd glass. Nose of... bridge of nose. I digress. Where was I going? What are we talking about? We are in quite a strange place, dear friends. And if you sit in support of Donald Trump, I ask of you why. And history will ask of you, as I drop my pen and make distracting noises, why? Why continue to support him? Why, when he said Mexico would pay for the wall and he ended up making you pay for the wall, do you support him? Why, when he sort of saddled up to all of your anti-vaxxer enthusiasts and seduced that demographic for their vote, and is now running Operation Warp Speed with glee and pride and a need for adulation, do you continue to support him? Because that's a form of betrayal in my mind, right? Like if someone did that. If I was a dedicated, committed anti-vaxxer and I joined the Trump coalition, I would be quickly exiting the Trump coalition right now. Because I'm now... What are we? What are we anti-vaxxers in the Trump coalition, if not a completely betrayed plurality that carries a lot of vote total within this group that's just been given a big, friendly, orange, tainted, shit-eating, grin-presented middle finger of, F you. Even Trump is like, get vaccinated. And he courted you. He seduced us. I'm imagining myself. I am a critical thinker, right? And a lot of people out there maybe wave that flag, but I wonder how many of them actually put themselves in the mindset to the best of their ability as themselves, right? Not trying to pretend to be someone else and adhere to other things. But I like to ask myself, if I were a serious anti-vaxxer as myself, just adopting this movement and this rationale and this decision-making process, what would I think about the world and about the politicians and about the things going on right now, especially? It's sort of like an interesting convergence of thought for me. And along with other folks, that have been seduced, lured, and and forced to join this coalition with a really weird, not so cohesive patchwork of folks that include the extreme alt-right, and which includes within its little corner, the extreme alt-right, which a lot can be said about. Why stay on that sinking ship? Why continue to devote oneself to that motley crew of clusterfuck of what the fuck are we even doing? Right? One of my biggest questions. And it's, and so the double pope scenario. Trump knows that the system is going to do what the system does. And if when the system is a word or a phrase which can get as confusing as the Matrix. And I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. I think I already just did that in an episode recently. Or I'm having flashbacks to thinking about it at any rate. And I can do a whole series on the Matrix, the system, do a whole, double whammy, two-parter, maybe three-parter of just rambling about those ideas and how I think we need to build consensus about in which ways we utilize those words so that we don't misunderstand things and don't miscommunicate with one another. But I think Trump and the administration and the family know that the system has gotten what it wanted out of their turn in the White House, and that the political roller coaster reality TV melodrama works in heightened contrast, and that historically the trend prevails, and that there are indeed gears and hidden mechanics and don't misunderstand me here, I use this in a secular sense, occult paradigms at play. The entire Hail Mary maneuver of an onslaught of Hail Mary passes is theater and distraction, in my humble opinion. Trump supporters obviously disagree. Trump QAnon enthusiasts directly mock, ridicule, and insult me on my Facebook. And that's fair. They've got the free speech. As long as they don't get fucking violent, I got tough skin. Once we start edging towards emotional, verbal abuse and threats of intimations of even insinuations, hints of threatening at violence, you're in violation of the law. As far as I understand it. And of most commonly accepted moral value systems. And more importantly, and this is something I do believe in, not because of the Ten Commandments, mind you, necessarily, although they certainly are informative to my general conceptualization, I think there is indeed a set of universal laws. There is cosmic law, and it may or may not be precisely exactly what most people run around arguing about that it be, right? That was poorly phrased. The grammar Nazis will be like, what? What is he trying to say? I don't like saying that I believe in things, because as I've said probably too many times, I don't like to believe in belief. But belief is a real thing. I'm not dismissing belief. I wanted to clarify that. Because it is integral to my general worldview and theory, my socio political, economic, humanist, spiritualist, transcendentalist theory. Attention, consciousness, thinking, imagination, focus, awareness, and word magic are at play here in your world as it is being operated by whatever system of control, governance, and or oppression is actually at play. I'm not one to negotiate the argumentation of which conspiracy theory is the absolute truth or the most correct, etc. For all the reasons I've previously stated on the show. In large part because as one clever yoga, I think she teaches yoga, some sort of internet influencer that I'm either following or for whatever reason is like, social media-ly networked to me and I keep coming across their content. They follow 0 people on Instagram. And they apparently recently made a little video explaining why. And it caught my attention. I didn't really watch it, no offense. I was just on my way to doing something else. But I noticed it and realized what it was, which was a short reels, I guess, where they point at the words instead of talking, and there's music, and you're generally sort of just like that's exactly the kind of thing I used to do as a kid, by the way. It's kind of a freaky annoyance to me that I used to want to be I literally, as a child, using my and this is quite a sidebar divergence. It's a little bit of backstory. I used to use my double-decker, me and my brother. And in fact, this activity might have been the root of our sort of emotional breakup as like brothers that were, trying to be that sort of organic brother, gung-ho, we do everything together team. And then we had a rough patch and we, words were said and we split up. And from then on, we played separate and we didn't collaborate on. And bro, if you're listening, I apologize for all that shit. It totally wasn't my fault. But as a kid, not to go on another sidebar tangent inside the sidebar tangent, but I believe in calling shit out. And I beg your forgiveness, my dear brother, if you're listening now. Both my real life brother and my fictional literary version of my brother deserve my forgiveness for all the things I've ever held against them. And also I beg them for theirs in a meaningful way. But going on, we used to, and then also me by myself, used to sit in front of our hi-fi, our families, like, before you had Alexa, you had a 2 cassette, like double cassette tape deck, sometimes integrated with radio, sometimes that was another component, with a radio and a turntable, and perhaps, I'm talking before DVD players, before CD players. This is, Walkman style mini reel-to-reel tape deck, not the big giant reel-to-reel like from the wartime. And we used to sit in front of that in the living room and pretend to be DJs. Fast forward to today. Wow, here we are. And I rambled out of control with whatever I was going to talk about at the beginning of that segment. And now we are at the halfway point, friends, or at the middle point, where I'm supposed to have already transitioned, according to my own mastermind plan. Here we are in the middle of what literally to me as an observer feels like the backstory to a cartoon dystopian action adventure movie series set 60 or 120 years in the future, in which America has become a tyrannical, autocratic, free market, conspiracy-driven autocracy of oppression, overtly, in a big brother. That's why I referenced Brazil earlier, because that's, wow, if you've never seen Terry Gilliam's Brazil, dear friends, a like 7,000 thumbs up. Like all of my fractal Felds, that wasn't supposed to be a TH. I'm not coining new language. I'm not trying to be Tolkien. I just sometimes mispronounce stuff. All of my multi-parallel universe fractal selves come together to give you a infinite thumbs up, an infinity of pairs of thumbs up at that. Go rent and or acquire that film for yourself. It belongs in your collection, digital or on your shelf, if you still collect solid play media. And it's worth it. It's beautiful. Its effects. There's not, and I want to tell you this for the kids out there that grew up on way too much CGI. For the post-Jurassic Park 3 generation, right? The rest, it's a whole nother world after Jurassic Park 3 in terms of the timeline of CGI and innovation. So I should put a pin in that as an interesting sub-theme for my own Irrelevant Media Reviews sub-segment, of which I will be bringing more to you friends, I swear. But digressing out of all of my digressions, thank you for listening to my show, and I apologize if I completely lost the thread and or the train and or the point. And bless your heart for enduring all of it. The one Hail Mary pass that I'm worried about, because at this point, having thought about it for a hot second, by pausing in my mind and visiting all the different dimensions that this sort of thing is going on and coming back, the one that's really truly dangerous is if there's really corrupt criminal influencing post Safe Harbor Day, post whatever the hell Congress does this week. Is it this week, this next week? Because it's Friday. So if I'm not mistaken, on Monday, Congress officially counts the Electoral College pledge count and sort of formalizes the assigning of all 50 states by acknowledging it. Like they receive, all 50 states have now certified the popular election and allotted and submitted for consideration their chosen slated Electoral College delegates, I believe. If I'm wrong, forgive me. But I believe that to be the case right now, as we discussed, and I'll see if I can confirm. If I'm wrong, come back and error correction. I might forget to do that. But on Monday, if I'm not mistaken, if I didn't wake up in the wrong time frame, Mitch McConnell and everybody else and the entire circus show that is the double-decker bus called Congress, you know, because the House, the lower chamber, and the Senate's the higher chamber, double-decker, they're going to essentially ratify or certify, those might not be technically the used technical terms, but they're going to count and vote and or approve everything. And then after that, I believe on the 20th, right before Christmas, if I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong, or maybe it's in January, right before the, like January 15th or something. I have to double check. I never have all my facts and figures lined up in front of me on a teleprompter. I'm too broke as shit for that, friends. Despite being from an alternate timeline, etc., I'm not here with a giant bankroll. I'm supposed to get investors and find people who really support, and in the sort of ye olde ancient times of the Middle Ages, what's the phrase? Not sponsor, not patron. from which we get patronize, which then gets sort of transmitigated or transliterated over to like some sort of patronizing, which is like, don't insult me. Like, no, anyway. To wrap things up, there's a lot going on with Congress this week. So they also need to pass and fund the government, because if they don't, it'll shut down. So we're literally once again at that sort of cliffhanger, nonsensical, alarmist, kick the can down the road, move the goalposts instead of fix things kind of emergency negotiation style of governance. And it's really ridiculous, in my humble opinion, that they're going to only fund the government for one more week. And then apparently try to find some other solution to get us through the new year. But I digress. I need to take a break. You need to take a break. And we need to clear the mental vibes. Dear Trumptopia, thank you for tuning in and supporting the show. I am your humble host that will forever pledge to you to be real, raw, authentic, despite being a fictional literary character. Totally, in this podcast, unscripted. No one is telling me what to say. If there's anyone telling me what to say, it's a higher authority that I can't disavow. But I digress. That's details for another time. May peace, love, and grooviness blossom in your heart. And now, let's check out Clear the Decks for Dance by DJ Zed, an EDM Tear Out 101 remix on Remix Live app for your earballs and entertainment. Remember, folks, the real revolution is a spiritual revolution. If you're fomenting violence, you're being led by the nose, by the manipulative echo chamber, neurolinguistic programming content of the very system of oppression you think you are exposing. Violence solves nothing. It never has. And every crucified, ridiculed, vilified, marginalized, imprisoned, and or martyred spiritual teacher throughout history has tried to remind us the answer is healing, not butchering each other and ourselves for someone else's profit under ideological banners. Until next time, may peace, love, and grooviness blossom in your heart.